All right, what's going on, Giants fans? Doing another free agency preview video. 5 guys that I think are the most likely options for the Giants at the tight end position. Now, the only way I would see any of these guys being targets for the Giants or tight end in general would be one, if they traded Ingram. If they traded Ingram, which I don't see happening. Even if they even if they do trade him, I think that would be like, hey, we're going to get a Pitts or the guy out of Penn State in the draft. Or if they cut Toilolo, which I do think is a very likely option. The Giants are going to be clearing cap space here soon. Toilolo is definitely one of those guys that could be cut. And hey, I'm making this video 2 days early. Maybe he is cut by the time this happens. And then you need the third tight end filled in, someone who can block, and that's what I'm looking for out of these 5 guys. So, without further ado, let's get into it. 5 tight ends that I could see being targets for the Giants, and these are all going to be minimum contract guys. And first on the list is Jeff Swain. Jeff Swain, you know him, 27 years old. He's a 6-year vet. We know him from the Cowboys. He spent time with the Cowboys, and guess what? We have the offensive coordinator who was the head coach for the Cowboys, Jason Garrett. Might have heard of him. So there is that connection there, and Jason Garrett drafted him. He picked him in the 7th round, and he was there for 4 years before eventually leaving, and then going. Spent 2019 with the Jags, and they were going to use him. He had a 2-year, $6.6 million deal, so pretty decent contract. And he had 13 catches, 65 yards in 6 games, and then he had a bad concussion and missed the rest of the season. And this past season, he spent with the Titans on a 1-year, $910,000 deal, which is very doable by the Giants. That's basically the minimum. 9 catches, 83 yards, 1 touchdown. Played a third of the snaps on offense for the Titans. Played a third of the snaps on special teams. In 2018 with Jason Garrett, he played 50% of the snaps. So we know that Jason Garrett likes him. And he's a good blocker, and that's a theme for all these guys because that's what we're looking for in that tight end 3 role behind whoever is going to be, Evan Ingram or a draft pick, Caden Smith too. We need someone who can be a good blocker, and Levine Toilolo was a good one, but he wasn't like a dominating force. Like, he wasn't worth that contract looking back at it because he wasn't like a road grader in the blocking game. Jeff Swain, he's not going to be that either, but I think he's a good one, and I think out of all of these guys, he has the best receiving threat. With Swain. Now, next on the list, this guy was a big receiving threat in his day, but now he's 36 years old. He's 6'6", 267 pounds. Mercedes Lewis, tight end for the Packers the past 3 seasons. Obviously, spent 12 years with the Jacksonville Jaguars. Last year with the Packers, he had 10 catches, 107 yards, and 3 touchdowns. You remember he had 3 catches in the NFC Championship game against the Bucs too. But he is a blocker at this point. But he does have like nice hands. He's like the only guy on this list where it's like you can throw him a jump ball and you're like, Mercedes Lewis can go up and get it. Maybe not go up and get it anymore, but body somebody and get it. Even though, like I said, 10 catches doesn't strike any fear receiving game wise. He's a blocker at this point. Like I said, he spent the last 3 seasons with Green Bay, 12 before that with Jacksonville. There is a small connection. Pat Flaherty was the offensive line coach his last year in Jacksonville, and Flaherty has experience as a tight end coach before he joined the Giants in 2004. And a blocking tight end. They're going to be crossing over drills with the offensive line, so there's a small connection there. I would like this one. Now, I think this is the one where probably the least likely on this one. So I think Green Bay probably would try and get him to come back on a reasonable deal. He's been making about $2 million a year the past 3 years with Green Bay. But if Green Bay doesn't want him and wants to move on, and this guy still wants to get paid $1 million to play football, the Giants could be an option for him. Next on the list, Luke Stalker. He'll stalk you to the store. He's stalking. No, Luke Stalker, 32 years old, 6'5", 253 pounds. 10-year vet. Been in the league for a long time. Made most of his money with the Tampa Bay Bucks. Spent the last 2 years with the Falcons, and the year before that with Tennessee. He's a really good run blocker. I've actually watched him before. I was watching the Titans O-line a couple years ago. He's a good blocker. He would be a nice fit. He's not a receiving threat. He only gets a few catches a year, and they're usually bootleg checkdowns when they're in 3 tight end sets. But Luke Stalker could be a really good fit. He'll play for the vet minimum. And like I said, Toilola didn't blow us away. So if we can get someone who can be, I think Stalker could be just as good of a blocker as Toilola. If you get him for the vet minimum, that could definitely be an option for the Giants with that third tight end spot. Next on the list, Seth DeValve, 28 years old, 6'3", 245 pounds. Now this would be like he's still got a little potential pick. He was a 4th round pick by the Browns in 2016. And he just never panned out. He actually did spend 2018 with Freddie Kitchens. We know Kitchens took over the offense that year when they fired their. Why am I not remembering his name? Who was the guy? Hugh Jackson. When they fired Hugh Jackson, so he worked with them there a little bit, and we know Freddie Kitchens he's a tight end guy. He's been a tight end coach for 5 different teams in his career. Including the Giants this past year, and then he got his upgrade to on the offense. So there is some familiarity there with the two. He's probably the one where it's like you would like to get some receiving threat out of him. I mean, they had big plans for him in Cleveland, and they just never happened. He's probably like I said, he's the one that you would want to get some type of a receiving option out of. He's played some fullback reps too, so you can use him in a little bit of a versatile way. Last season was on the Panthers practice squad and then joined the Cardinals practice squad and then was elevated for the last 4 games. Or he's elevated for 2 games and they signed him to the active roster for the last 2 games of the year. So he did get some playing time towards the end of last season. He had like 1 catch. So could be, like I said, another guy. You play him the vet minimum, come in and compete. And you can even put him on the practice squad if it doesn't work out. So Seth DeValve, there is a connection there with Freddie Kitchens. And then last on the list, Blake Bell, 29 years old, 6'6", 252 pounds. Now, he's spent time with a lot of teams, the 49ers, Vikings, Jags, Chiefs, and then he spent 2020 with the Cowboys. So there's no direct connection. But we know Kellen Moore was the OC under Jason Garrett, so there is a little bit of a connection there. I'm sure Jason Garrett still talks to those guys. So that would be the connection to him and the Giants. He played in a third of the snaps with Dallas last year. He had 11 catches, 110 yards. Obviously, like a really good blocker. He was on a $1.1 million deal. And he plays a lot of special teams. And, I haven't mentioned that a ton with the other guys. But, the third tight end, it really does help if you can go down and cover a kick or play on the punt or do whatever's asked of you. I mean, we know how much the Giants put an emphasis on special teams. So Blake Bell could be that option. So those are my 5 most likely options for the Giants at the tight end spot. Tomorrow's video, I was planning on doing wide receiver, but I'm thinking about doing outside linebacker with the Kyle Van Noy was cut news. I don't know what I'm going to do yet. So we'll see. But we got the boring ones out of the way with tight end and safety. Now we can. The rest of them are going to be, I think, a lot more interesting. So appreciate the viewing. Subscribe, subscribe. I forget to do it at the beginning of the video, so do it at the end. Appreciate you guys. Let's go Big Blue.